Welcome along to Betting Weekly Extra Time European Edition. You're with Dan Roebuck alongside me, Steve Wiss and James Eastham. Steve, James, very good day to you both. Bit of a chaotic Champions League slate, Steve. Match day 5 in the book. The reason I'm mentioning it ahead of the European show is I just wonder, are we starting to see things a little bit different in Europe that has a knock-on effect to domestic leagues? Because usually you might get a bit of rotation from here on in for the Champions League, but we've still got 3 games to go. That may or may not affect how teams look at games towards the end of the calendar year when it comes to the domestic form. Is there anything in this? Are you poised to take things into consideration that you might not have in previous campaigns?
Well, hello to James and hello to you, Dan. How are you doing, Dan? Hope you're well.
I'm all good.
Good to hear. This is a chaotic phase, but I think this is the time to cash in now, before the January window comes with the transfers, before we get winter breaks and things like that. I think this is the moment you got to strike. You got to, each team has individual angles that they're doing. Some teams perform really well when they're mixing European and domestic. They've got bigger squads. Other teams, it's good time to fade them. It's obviously the new format is different. I still think it's going to be really weird in January, still seeing these league games in Europa and Champions League, and that might be where it gets a bit different, to be honest with you. I think right now it feels quite similar to previous campaigns, though, where you just take each game as it comes. But historically, this is not a bad time to be betting, really, now. Certainly, I think January could be more challenging, potentially, than this period here. So I really feel like I feel a need to strike.
James, one or two of your picks over the course of the show that we're going to get to, I was trying to look for trends off the back of Champions League performances, and I didn't really spot any. Is there anything in league form at the moment with Champions League, or are you with Steve? Maybe it's January when we really have got something different that potentially we might get a spike in unusual results.
Yeah, I don't think there are many trends, actually, which are a result specifically of the new format in the Champions League. I think one thing that's different is if you think back to the old group stage format, after 4 matches, sometimes teams were out of it, weren't they? And they knew they weren't going to qualify, even as a best place loser, to go into the other European competitions. Now we've played more than that. We've played 5 games, and I think because of the new format, teams aren't going to ease off because they think they've still got a chance of making it through. So that's one point of difference. I think the teams who in the old days would have been out of it are going to remain competitive and taking it seriously all the way through to January. In France, to take one example, some media are speculating that teams are more motivated for the Champions League. Brest, as we know, have done really well in Europe, better than anybody expected. Their league form hasn't been great. Is that down to motivation or just what an exhausting schedule they've got compared to what they normally have? I don't know. So there's one or two micro trends you might be able to pick up on individual teams. But for me, as I say, the main thing about the new format is nobody really, other than maybe a couple of teams at the bottom, feels completely out of it. So they should continue to take it seriously right through December and into January as well.
Steve, you mentioned this is the time to cash in, and if our viewers have been following one of our cappers recently, it really has been the time to cash in.
Well, do you know what? I do want to tip my hat here to James. He's a very modest gentleman, but I mean, this might be a good time for the producer to put the stats on the screen. But he is plus 20 units for this show this season with an ROI of 40%. Now, I don't think at times we really blow our own trumpet enough when we do well. I think James is possibly the hottest capper around on these sort of shows anywhere right now. So I really just wanted to say well done to him. He's been flying in so many different categories. He's been nailing games. I'm showing a loss there of about 4 units, and I worked it out. I think all of the losses on the SGP. More on that soon. I'd be level if we didn't do SGPs. Plus 20. I mean, brilliant stuff, James. And I just thought it's a good time to highlight it and really commend him. I've not got a cap near me here, but I've got a hat here, a woolly one, because we're getting in sort of the winter season. But
you can't tip a woolly hat.
I know, but
Thank you very much.
As much as I can. Well done.
Oh, thank you, Steve. And yeah, obviously, listen, my form has been great. We've said from the beginning of the show on this.
Hang on, I thought you said he was modest. Go on.
Well, well, now Steve's introduced it, But we've said from the beginning, we're here for the season, aren't we? And I think part of the reason we got the format of the show as we have with our 2 units and 1 unit and hot dogs is because we're doing the same thing every week all season. And yeah, obviously it's a good start, but I think over the course of the season, that's when we're really looking to make a profit. And I'm very confident that we will, not just on this show, I should say, but also on the Premier League show, where I know Nigel's been talking about the difference between 1 units and leans recently on some of the socials. It's all about that consistency over the long term, and that's what we're aiming for here.
Indeed it is. A reminder of the boys' P&L on screen as we speak. And just a reminder that we've got more content coming in the new year. The Betting Weekly 2025 Challenger Prospects Guide is going to be coming your way with Sean Calvert. If you want it, then you've got to sign up for the Betting Weekly newsletter. An awful lot of you have already, but everybody is welcome. It is free. Head to bettingweeklystudios.com for the details. You can sign up on that webpage. We're going to go Saturday, then Sunday today for this week's show. We're going to kick off with Saturday. We've got a same-game parlay in Germany and the big game to kick us off with. Then we've got a few leans. Then we'll move into what is a brilliant betting day on Sunday. Hopefully a good one on Saturday as well. Steve, we're going to kick off with the same-game parlay. It is in Der Klassiker, 12:30 on Saturday Eastern Time. It's Dortmund against Bayern, of course. Bayern are minus money favourites away from home. It's the 136th renewal, I think, in all competitions. Dortmund have won the last league meeting, but were winless in the previous 10 in the German top flight. And although Vincent Kompany is coming for a little bit of criticism, I think, this season, they are flying domestically. So are we framing the SGP around Bayern, or do you think Dortmund might contribute? Talk us through the same game parlay for this week.
I like your scheduling here, Dan. Put me out my misery early with the SGP. It's not been going well for me for the SGP. So I just, I thought I'll put all the rotten eggs into one basket here. I can't win on the SGP. I can never get Dortmund right. I knew we were going to be talking about this game in detail, weeks in advance. So it's obviously a fixture I've been targeting. So I thought, you know what? Nothing to lose here. I'm going with the SGP. It was going to be a really elaborate SGP, but we haven't got prices up yet the time of recording on goal scorers and things. It was going to be Bayern win, over 3.5 goals, Harry Kane to score, and I was going to throw some corners in there as well. And I reckon that would have paid about, 7 or 8 to 1. But we haven't got any goal scorer odds yet. So I'm keeping it more simpler. I'm going with Bayern to win and over 2.5 goals at plus 148. So, if they win 3-0, if they win 2-1 or more, then this will be a winner. I just think in this fixture, I've watched it for many years, and Dortmund usually fold in it. They actually did win the most recent renewal in March, but that was as bad as Bayern have been in recent years. If they couldn't have beaten them, then they never would have beaten them. But Bayern did win the reverse fixture last year at this venue 4-0, and they've won 10 of the last 12 meetings in all comps. A couple of Super Cups in there. Generally a good record here at the Westfalen Stadion, or whatever it's called these days. And it can be an intimidating place. And I got done, didn't I, recently when RB Leipzig came here and Dortmund deservedly beat them. But I just think Bayern are by far the better coach side. We know what Vincent Kompany's trying to do here. I think they are going to get better as the season goes on. I had a good discussion on the live show with Will White yesterday, and he thinks Bayern for the Champions League is not a bad shout on the futures, because he also thinks they're probably likely to get better and better as the year goes on, with Kompany's system really gets into place. I don't really know what Dortmund are under the new manager, Yuri Sahin. They've won the last 2 games. They beat Freiburg last week easily, but they faced 9 men eventually. I don't really know what you can take out of that game. Beat Zagreb in midweek again. I think it was a Zagreb side that were missing players, and they did the job. But sometimes with Dortmund, when they've been winning games, expectations go up, and it's not a good thing for them. So suddenly they're heading into the game. There's a bit of optimism. I've seen a few people saying, "Oh, they can do Bayern up here." It's a dangerous game for Bayern, and I think that is when you back Bayern. when there's a little bit of doubt about them. You said before there's a bit of a slightly negative air, isn't there? Even though their results are excellent. So I think Bayern get the job done here and win the game. Over 2.5 goals, simply because I don't trust the Dortmund defence. I've not all season. Just don't trust them at all defensively. So I think Bayern could certainly, even if they win 2-0, I think they certainly could still go over 2.5 goals. But you're looking, I think, 3-1, 2-1 away win here. So that is the SGP Bayern to win. Over 2.5 goals at plus 148. Here goes nothing. Not expectant, but you never know.
What I like about Bayern and a lot of German teams, but Bayern in particular, they are ruthless. They don't stop if they're 2-0 up. They will go for goal 3, goal 4. That's just in their DNA. You see that with the German national side as well. So if you fancy them to win, I think the over 2.5 is a bit of a no-brainer. I like this one at plus 148. That's the same game parlay. We've got some leans for you on Saturday. We've got an awful lot of picks on Sunday, but we've got 1 or 2 games that we want to talk about first of all. We're going chronologically. So we're going to just dial it back to 8 a.m. on Saturday morning Eastern. It's Barcelona, Las Palmas here. Barcelona are short price favourites, as you would expect, against Las Palmas, who were beaten last time out. Barcelona minus 7.15, Las Palmas 15 to 1 shots. James, you've got a little bit of a lean on this one. Barca are without a win in their last 2 in La Liga. They did win in the Champions League, of course, in mid-week. They've just been inched out a little bit, nearly even money for the title now at minus 118. What's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'm very strongly with Barcelona here, down to win the game. You've mentioned they're short price favourites. You'd expect that. So I'm backing them on the Asian handicap with a minus 2 goal start, which is available at minus 152. Now, that's actually got shorter as well. I'm very strongly on this. This was actually going to be my 2-unit pick when they were a bigger price. I didn't want to hand out a 2-unit pick as short as minus 152 because I don't like to go that short. But I think they'll get the job done and they should win it for me comfortably, should Barcelona, because I was really impressed with them in midweek. They beat Brest 3-0 in the Champions League. Pretty comfortable win. Yamal is still out, obviously, which is a big loss, but they managed to beat Brest and score 3 times without too many problems. And if you look at their home form, which I think is crucial here at home, it has been not only good in terms of winning games, but winning them comfortably. They beat Espanyol 3-1 at home recently. They've had 2 big home wins in Europe. They beat Bayern 4-1. They beat Young Boys 5-0. There's a 5-1 win over Sevilla as well. So Barcelona at home, not only winning games, but winning them by big margins. And I just don't see why Las Palmas, who've lost 5 out of 7 on the road, are going to come here and cause them any problems. So the more I looked at this, the more I thought, are Barcelona just going to win it by 1 goal, or are they probably going to go on and win it by 2 or 3 goals? I think you got a great chance of it, at the very least, having the handicap equalled here if Barcelona win it by 2 goals, and they could go on and win it by more. So it's a little bit short for me to make it a pick, minus 152. But in terms of the actual outcome of the game, I'm very confident that Barcelona will win by 2 goals or more. So that was the lean. It's Barcelona minus 2 on the Asian handicap.
Any thoughts on Barcelona at the moment, Steve? I mean, I just think that when they get it right, they do score a lot of goals. They're a young squad. They're going to have 1 or 2 hiccups, and we might have seen that in La Liga recently. But when they all click, Yamal or no Yamal, we don't know if he's going to play for this one. He's missed the last few. They're good enough to put 3-4 past the side fairly easily, aren't they?
Yeah, I also do have a lean for this game, and it is both teams score no at plus 105. Basically, it's the same as Barcelona win to 0, but you actually get a bigger price on backing both teams score no.
Yeah, I've seen that, and yeah.
So if you are doing that, then you want to check that. If you're doing that sort of bet, I think it's going to be very similar to a match which Las Palmas played at the start of November away at Atletico Madrid. They lost that game 2-0 and they had 1 shot in the game. And I just don't see them having many attempts here. I think Barcelona dominate, lights to flag right from the off. But equally, I totally can see why the minus 2 has strong appeal for James, because Barcelona are not 1-0 merchants anymore when they win. They can score a lot of goals. So, the minus 2 handicap's probably actually a better bet, because, if they did, if Las Palmas scored a freak goal, Barcelona could get 4 themselves and you'd be winning the bet. So, but I don't see the visitors scoring. They have improved, their form's improved, Las Palmas, but I don't see them getting on the board here.
Just a couple of leans in that Barcelona game that's on Saturday morning. And briefly, Steve, just to wrap up some German action on Saturday afternoon, their traditional sort of kick-off time, which is, 3:30 local, 2:30 UK, and 9:30 Eastern. You've got just a couple of teams that you quite like on the money line or maybe on the Asian line here that are playing away from home that you think might be a little bit big.
Yeah, I was looking. These were a couple of teams on my hot dog list. We'll start with Leipzig, Wolfsburg. Wolfsburg are plus 400 to win this game. The two teams I'm looking at backing on the money line are Wolfsburg and Mönchengladbach. And they're the sort of teams, it's a bit strange to say. I'd rather back them on the money line at a bigger price for a smaller stake than, say, on a handicap for a larger stake, because they're the sort of team, if they get a result, it's probably a win rather than a draw. You know, on a good day, they win the match. I don't know what's happened to RB Leipzig, but they've just massively gone off form recently. I think injuries are a potential reason for it. Wolfsburg have won 3 out of 5 away games. Their only defeat on the road has been to Leverkusen. And I think it's not a bad time to be back in Wolfsburg. I mentioned them recently. They have impressed me. So it wouldn't shock me if they went to Leipzig and won 4-0, plus 400. 4-0,
Last person who said a win away 4-0, it cop 150 to 1. That was Nigel, Spurs at City last week.
I don't know what the 4-0 price is here. But they did beat Leipzig twice last season, by the way, in League and Cup. So it's not. I don't think they're going to be afraid of them. They were at home in both of those games. The other match, Freiburg against Borussia Mönchengladbach, I've got some really interesting stats for you here. The last 6 meetings have contained 21 goals, but it's been both teams to score no on 4 occasions. There have been 4 draws in the last 5. 2 of the draws have been 0-0, and 2 of the draws have been 3-3. Some of the craziest. And mixed in that, I think Freiburg had a 6-0 away win as well. So it's a crazy one. But again, Freiburg, I think, have just gone off form recently. I don't really see why they're minus money favourites here to win. I couldn't trust them at minus money favourites. They have only scored 1 goal in the last 4 games. They had 2 men sent off last week. And Gladbach, this is about the most consistent I've ever known them in about 5 years. They're unbeaten in 5 games. It doesn't normally happen for them. They can be absolutely anything on the day, but I've seen a lot more controlled play, a bit more maturity from Borussia Mönchengladbach this season. And they're a plus 260 to win. And they are due one of their big price away wins. I tell you, this is the sort of team that do this. And I think that Freiburg could be ripe for the taking here. So just a couple of leans here. They were on my hot dog list. But I do think Wolfsburg and Borussia Mönchengladbach have got chances this weekend to surprise everyone.
Yeah, I really like Borussia Mönchengladbach. You're dead right with consistency. If you look at a lot of their figures, they play to their form nearly every single week. They have done something this season. They're not inconsistent. Their XG tallies up. Their expected points tallies up. There's an awful lot to like about them. Freiburg, I thought, have been a little bit unlucky recently. I've got to admit, just looking at expected goal stats, but they shouldn't be minus money. I think Gladbach are a really good bet this weekend. Sunday slate for you. Lots of picks from James and Steve over the course of what should be a really good betting Sunday. If you're tailing us, make sure that you sit and watch the show. You can go back to it, and we're going to go chronologically over Sunday. So it's Sunday morning into Sunday afternoon. You can sit and get some expert analysis from the boys as you watch all the action on the BetRivers app. We are going to start with Steve's 2-unit play here. It's in Spain. It's Villarreal against Girona. Villarreal are minus 120. Girona plus 310 here. So Villarreal are minus money favourites. They've got a really good record this season, Steve, but it's not the money line you're going for your 2-unit play.
Yeah, I'm switching my overs 2-unit play into Spain this week. This is a really boring play, but I think I've got a good record with boring bets, haven't I, on this show? This is just a straightforward over 2.5 goals. Villarreal against Girona at minus 150. 2 units on it. So, I mean, I was looking at the hot dog here, actually, for over 4 Asian goals. This is how confident I am in a lot of goals in the game. So that was a real temptation. But in the end, I thought, let's just keep it simple. Villarreal, I mean, it's been a while since we mentioned them, actually, on the show, but they have done well for me on this edition, probably since Marcelino came in. Last season. They do have 10 out of 13 games over 2.5 this season, but this isn't actually a bet really actually based on stats. It's the style of, I think, how both teams play, and I've said for a while, Villarreal just generally play quite on the front foot. They suck teams, if they can, into shootouts, and I think that could happen here. Girona, lost in midweek against Sturm Graz. There was a crazy miss in that game at 0-0 if they'd scored it. I think
0.89 the XG for that chance.
Well, this is where you question XG, isn't it? It actually been 0.99. I couldn't believe. I don't know how it's possible to miss that chance, but they'd better not be doing that here. Let's just say that. But I mean, Girona have had a couple of big wins of late. 4-3. I mean, they were at home against Leganés and then 4-1 against Espanyol. The players have come back from injury a lot recently. They've had a bad injury run, but there's more to choose from now. And I think they'll much prefer being in Villarreal than in the middle of Austria on a fairly cold night. And I think they'll play a lot better here. Crazy head-to-head stat for this fixture. The away team has won 9 of the last 10 meetings. I don't like Girona. I think Villarreal will win the game. I like Villarreal to win, but that's a really weird head-to-head. But it's the goals that I like the most. I just think the way both teams play should promote plenty of chances and ultimately lead to at least... I think this goes quite a bit over. I think I will look back on this and think I should have gone over 4.5 or something. But 2-unit play on over 2.5 at -150, that'll do me. I'll still have a smile on my face if it does go crazy over.
That's 8 a.m. Sunday, Villarreal against Girona. An hour later, we're underway in Italy for Torino against Napoli. Torino are plus 375 to win this one. Napoli have been backed. James, you picked Napoli as one of your plays last week and they came good, and you are sticking with Antonio Conte's side this week.
Yeah, I'm backing Napoli to win this game away to Torino. It's my 1-unit pick this week. The price has moved. It was minus 117 for Napoli when I spotted it and decided it was my 1-unit pick. They're now minus 134, which doesn't surprise me, because I still think, and I've been saying the same thing on the show for quite a few weeks now, Napoli are underrated. I think they're a better team than the markets have been saying on a match-by-match basis. And also in the outright market, we mentioned them a few weeks ago when they were plus 300 to win the Serie A title. They've been cut now to plus 275. You could argue they're still a good bet at plus 275, I think, to win the Serie A title, because coming back to, again, one of the points we've made repeatedly on Napoli, they are not playing in Europe. They've got these clear weeks between league games. They can just go from weekend to weekend. Makes the planning easier, means the players are fresher, and I think it's a huge reason why they're close to the top of the table. So I think Napoli are a great bet to win this game. As I say, the fact they've had a clear week with so many other teams, not only in Italy, but in the top leagues, having had such hectic weeks with travel and matches and all the rest of it, huge advantage for them. And then the other factor on the game is Torino. They've been poor for me against top teams in Italy. They've not done badly in general, and their home stats, if you just look at that, aren't too bad. But if you go back to the start of September, they've played 4 times since then against top sides, Juventus, Fiorentina, Inter, Lazio. They've lost all 4 of those matches, and 2 of those matches were at home. So I don't think there's any reason why Torino should be confident of getting something here. They're obviously underdogs, but I think Napoli are a good bet. So for me, all the factors on this game are pointing towards Napoli. You can argue, can they keep winning matches? Can they keep, benefiting from the freshness that they've got from not playing in Europe? I personally think at the moment they can. Another win last weekend, and it just keeps going from week to week. So yeah, even at the shorter price, as I say, they've moved from since I identified this as my 1-unit pick. But even the minus 134 that's available on the Masware recording, I'm very happy to back that. So that's Napoli for me, my 1-unit pick to win this weekend away to Torino.
Yeah, you would have thought that the longer the season goes on and teams are still in Europe and Napoli obviously remain out, then that advantage might be even bigger. We go to Spain next, 10:15 a.m. on Sunday. Eastern, Real Madrid against Getafe. The Spanish side are minus 278 here. Getafe a big price at plus 850. Real Madrid are now even money for the title. Beaten by Liverpool, of course, in the Champions League in midweek, but they have covered the Asian line recently in La Liga, James, and your 2-unit play is expecting them to do that again this weekend.
Yeah, so I'm going Real Madrid here on my 2-unit play at home to Getafe, backing them on the Asian handicap with a minus 1.25 goal start, which is available at minus 118. So you're looking for Real Madrid to win this game by 2 goals or more. If they do that, you're going to make a profit. If they were to win it by just 1 goal, then you're only going to lose half your stakes. I think people who've watched that game against Liverpool in midweek, they might be quite surprised by this pick because Real Madrid not only lost at Anfield, they deservedly lost, didn't they? I think anybody that watched the game would say it was a fair result. Mbappe missed the penalty, which might have made the game different, but overall they didn't play particularly well. I honestly don't think that has any bearing at all this weekend. I think that against weaker sides in La Liga, Real Madrid have been absolutely fine this season. If you look at their last couple of games, they've won 3-0 away to Leganés. They've beaten Osasuna 4-0 at home. And if you look at their home form generally, they've won 6 out of 7, and their only home defeat was against Barcelona. Well, they're not playing a Barcelona standard side this weekend. This is far more like the 6 games at home that they've won. So, as I say, I don't take much notice of that midweek defeat at Anfield to Liverpool. They should be strong enough here. Yes, they've had injuries, obviously, recently. Vinicius Jr. has been out. But really, honestly, if Mbappe is playing, if Bellingham is playing, if some of the other players who don't get the headlines are playing at home to Getafe, it honestly should be enough for Real Madrid to get the win. So even looking at those factors, which may put people off Real Madrid at the moment, my advice would be to ignore most of those. They should be strong enough here. And I think, honestly, the Asian handicap line at minus 1.25 at a price of minus 118. I was actually a little bit surprised. I thought that might be minus 1.5 on the Asian handicap. So minus 1.25 on the Asian handicap. Very happy to take 2 units. Real Madrid, that's my pick this weekend. You just, as I say, need them to win by 2 goals or more, and you're going to get your full stakes cash in a profit here.
A word on this one for you, Steve. I was looking at Mbappe's price. He's plus 105 to score. We talked about it last week when he scored. He's got 7 goals in La Liga, scored in 6 games, so plus 105 seems about fair. He's still going to be on penalties. I was seeing some of the Real Madrid Twitter artists suggesting that he shouldn't be after missing 1, but he has scored 3 this season. I might back him to score this weekend. Any thoughts on Real Madrid, Getafe for you? Any leans at all?
Well, I love both the last 2 picks James has put up there. They were actually both leans for me. I did look at Napoli, and I certainly looked at Real Madrid. It's almost like a continuation from last week with me. I backed them on the -1. That was my winner on the show. And, against these poorer teams, they'll get the job done in La Liga. There's actually quite a bit of an incentive now with Barcelona dropping points as well. They're right back in the race for La Liga. They've got a game in hand, I think, against Valencia. And, I try to look back. Well, last time Getafe actually got a point even away from home against Real Madrid, and I can't find it. The site I was using only goes back to like 2013 or something. But, it's not a good place for them to go. I mean, we mentioned Getafe before where even if they do get chances, they usually miss them. So I don't think there's too much. I think Real Madrid are going to win the game. It's just a question of by how many goals, isn't it? And I think they'll be out to prove a point. Because I think it's never a bad thing when everyone's down on, and there's a lot of negativity around Real Madrid, far too much than there should be. Back these teams when they're sort of like a cornered dog, and they can often deliver for you.
Let's get to France, shall we? Because we've got a couple of hot dogs from the boys in France here. The first game we're going to talk about, we've got Steve's hot dog. It's 11 a.m. on Sunday morning. So again, it just ties in nicely with the games that we're covering on this Sunday betting slate for you. Toulouse against Auxerre, the game we're going to talk about. Minus 150 Toulouse. Auxerre are 4-1 shots here. Only Paris Saint-Germain have got more points than Auxerre over the last 6 matches in the French top flight, Steve. I don't think they've made the staking plan previously. You might remember that they might have done, but I couldn't quite find them. But you are playing them this weekend.
I am, and I very nearly went on straight on the money line here, which is, they're as big as plus 400 on the money line. But I'm going with a Tino bet on Auxerre at plus 265. I think this is the week we get Toulouse beaten. We've been trying to get them beaten on this show.
Yeah,
all
they are
season,
a bit of a bogey.
Minus 150 on the money line for Toulouse. I think that's appalling. I really do. There's no way they should be that short. Now we've said before how in the metrics they've done well and actually underachieving quite a lot to lose, but they haven't really impressed me too much. They got that win at Rennes, but there was circumstances there, change of manager. And I think I really like what I'm seeing from Auxerre. I think they can win matches in so many different ways. they can actually get involved in some shootouts with teams because they've got offensive. The type of offensive weapons they've got are quite pacey and physical, and can catch teams out. And they showed last week they can actually win ugly as well when they got a 1-0 against Angers. This is a completely different game where they're the underdog. They can do what they like, really. They can sit back. For Toulouse might have to force the issue a bit, and it might cost them. There was a match recently. It was Toulouse against Rams, and I thought on another day Rams could have won that game. Toulouse just nicked a late goal. If Auxerre score at the right time here, they can get something going. I think it's a silly, mad price, plus 265 on the Tino bet. So if it's a draw, we're not even losing anything. They've won 4 of their last 5 games, and they are absolutely flying. I think every time I watch them, I'm mightily impressed in so many different ways, like I've said. And it just screams out to me. I was nearly on the money line here at plus 400. I think what everyone's kind of waiting for, Dan, is everyone's looking at Auxerre. They're currently 7th in the table. They're in good form. There's this. I've heard a few people say, well, they can't keep this up. They're newly promoted. They can't keep this up. The bubble's going to burst, etc. Look at their actually underlying stats and also the eye test on the field. I think they actually kind of deserve to be where they are. So I don't really see right now why they would just suddenly fade off. But yeah, so I like what I'm seeing in terms of the performances, and I like what I'm seeing with the odds. So this is the hot dog pick for me. Tino bet on Auxerre plus 265.
Any thoughts on Auxerre, James, briefly from you? Their value play this weekend, have they impressed you? Have they surprised you after their promotion last season?
Yeah, both of those things. They've impressed me and surprised me. Hats off to their manager, Christophe Pélissier. What I think he's done is he's looked at his players and he's decided where his strengths lie correctly is in attack. And he set up his side to try to get his better attacking players on the ball as much as possible. Really bold approach from him as the manager of a newly promoted side, I think. And so far, it's working well. So I personally think they are going to fade eventually. But I think they've already got enough points on the board that they should avoid relegation. And that was always their only aim this season. So they've been absolutely brilliant.
7th at the moment, 25-1 for top 4. We won't dwell on that. We might dwell on Marseille, though, because they're plus 350 in the betting without Paris Saint-Germain. And they are subject of James's hot dog. And this is a game that's 2:45 p.m. on Sunday. So hopefully your account will have been boosted over the course of the day already before we get to the Sunday evening games in Europe. Marseille-Monaco, big game this one, James, obviously. Marseille plus 150, Marseille plus 163, almost a pick-em contest here. Monaco are the favourites in that betting without market at minus 167. Obviously, if Marseille win this one, I don't think they'll flip-flop, but obviously they'll be a lot closer. This is your hot dog. Talk us through your thoughts on Marseille-Monaco.
Yeah, so Marseille-Monaco is a huge rivalry anyway in the south of France, going back several decades now. And this season, these are the two teams most likely, if anybody, is going to challenge PSG. They're likely to finish second and third, or at least they should, based on the market and also really the squads and how they're doing. So it's a huge game. And my hot dog pick is on the tie. I'm back in the tie here because, as you say, Dan, it's a pick-em between the two sides. We're all guilty of overlooking the tie in so many matches. If we just look at which team's going to win it, or we look to the handicap, etc. This, for me, is the one game in France this weekend where the tie looks the most likely, and it's obviously a huge price compared to both of the teams to win it. So it's plus 255. When I saw it, I think that price has actually moved out now to plus
270.
Yeah, plus 270. It's going to be around there, I think, all the way to kickoff here, and that's making it my hot dog. I think that every which way you look at it, there's very little to pick between these two sides. There's reasons why they could win it. In terms of Marseille, they were excellent last weekend in the second half at Lens to win that game 3-1. A lot of people are talking about, will that really launch their season? But then against that, Marseille's home form has been poor. Steve and I both talked about that. So there's for and against for Marseille, and the same applies to Monaco, who have generally been really, really good in League One. They're currently 3 points ahead of Marseille in the standings, but they've just lost in midweek at home to Benfica, and they've actually lost a couple of games in League One as well. So the longer I looked at this, the more I thought, you know what, the tie being such a big price compared to either Marseille to win it or Monaco to win it, it's a rare chance to back the tie because I actually think it's the most likely of the three outcomes, and it's a much, much bigger price than the other two. So that was my thinking on the game. Should be a great game. Should be a fascinating game too. Really well matched sides. They're going to do slightly different things tactically, and lots of great individuals on the field. But for me, the value pick here and my hot dog pick is on the tie. As I say, plus 270 at the moment, and it should be around that price all the way until kickoff.
Steve, very briefly from you. Monaco obviously succumbed late to Benfica in the Champions League. Might be a bit of a hangover there. You're not backing Marseille plus 150. Draw no bet minus 117.
Couldn't touch Marseille at home now with Monopoly money. I tell you what, this tie is a silly price, by the way. I mean, just looking at Le Havre Angers, for example, plus 220 for the tie there, and we've got Le Havre as a plus 125 favourite. So, this is a silly price. I don't like either team in the game, so maybe it will be a draw. Let's see. Marseille do need a performance at home, so even if they don't win the game, they need a performance. Let's see what they do. Monaco are not a team I trust very easily either. So this is I'm really surprised how big this tie odds are.
This is our mini France section, so it would be remiss of me to not ask James about shot on targets, because plenty of viewers come for James's shot on target words of wisdom. We've got nothing official this week, James, but that's not maybe for the want of trying. The prices came out fairly late, but you might have a tiny lean, maybe.
Yeah, tiny lean. I've been through the prices which are available at the moment. As we're recording this, I think it's about 6 out of the 9 games have been priced up in the shot on target market. The only player I would look to is Engelail Mukau of Lille. He's a young midfielder who a lot of people may not have heard of.
He's available. My nap. I'd never heard of the player. That was my nap's been landed. Right, go on.
Yeah, he's plus 280 to have over 0.5 shots on target for Lille this weekend. Now, it's not a tip, it's not a pick, and it's a sort of a player to look to, maybe a lean. But the reason I'm picking him out is Lille have just won 2-1 away from home to Bologna in the Champions League. Mukau scored both goals. Now, he did play in a slightly different position, more of a number 10 position, rather than the central midfield position that we normally see him in. But what you've got here is a player who's just scored 2 goals in the Champions League, and he's available at plus 280 to just have over 0.5 shots on target this weekend. You don't even need him to score. So have a look at Mukau. Just maybe watch him and see how he plays. I'll certainly be doing that, because if he plays anything like he did in midweek, plus 280 would definitely be too big. Just depends where he gets used or if he even gets picked. But yeah, if anybody out there looking for a shot on target play in League One this weekend, then Mukau would be the player to keep an eye on.
There we go. Let's get to Italy for our final couple of thoughts. We have got an official play from Steve in Lecce, Juventus. We'll look at Monday night as well for you, but this is 2:45 again, Sunday afternoon. Lecce against Juventus here. Lecce plus 390. Juve are a minus money favourites. Big win, Steve, for Lecce. Venezia last Monday, although the expected goals figures would suggest that we're a little fortunate to win that one. Juve doing sort of classic Italian things recently in Europe and indeed at home. They don't seem to create an awful lot. What's your thoughts on this one? This is a one-unit play in Italy from you.
This was very nearly my 2-unit play. I probably just couldn't quite stomach having a 2-unit play on an under just yet. But under 2.25 goals is at minus 120, and I'm really struggling to see where the goals are scored in this game. Lecce have scored 6 goals all season, the lowest scoring team in Serie A. I mean, 6 goals in 13 games is absolutely atrocious. I mean, you won't be surprised to hear, Dan, they are massively underachieving compared to their metrics, but I think they're the sort of team who will continue to underachieve. And I don't think Lecce will score a goal in this match. Juventus, the big problem Juventus have got is injuries. They've got a lot of players on the sidelines, especially in attack. You know, Vlahovic, there's a few players like Gonzalez who's been out a while. They actually went with Weston McKennie up front, I think, last weekend as like a false 9, and he's injured now as well. I'm struggling to see where they might even score a goal from here. What they did last weekend was really good. They played to their strengths and got the 0-0 at AC Milan. Same against Villa in midweek. If you can't score goals easily, then make sure you don't concede. And I think this reeks of probably a 1-0 to Juventus, maybe a set piece, a moment or a mistake from Lecce. But I really am strongly in the under camp here. The under 2.25 goal. I mean, I wanted the hot dog in this game as well. I wanted under 1.5 goals, but it's at plus 195, just short again. And I do play, I play by the rules. I play fair and square. So that is how I really do like this to be quite low scoring, significantly low scoring. And it's the official 1 unit pick as for under 2.25 goals. This is the late game on Sunday, isn't it, in Serie A? And this could honestly send people to sleep, because I don't think it's going to be. There won't be many shots in the game, I don't think. This could really get you off to an early bedtime on Sunday evening.
Well, it might be for us, but hopefully not in the States. James, just a brief word on you from this one. You've got a lean.
Yeah, so I'm backing Juventus here as a lean, minus 137. Similar thinking to Steve, it's the lack of goals from Lecce. I just think that over the 90 minutes, listen, if Juventus are serious about competing for the title, even with the injuries, they've got to get a win here. These are the type of games you have to be able to pick up 3 points from, because as Steve has said, Lecce can't score, and Lecce in particular against the top sides have been really, really poor. They lost 4-0 at home to Atalanta. They lost 6-0 at home to Fiorentina. They've had heavy defeats away to Milan and Inter. So I just feel Juventus, they've got to find the goal from somewhere. Steve's probably right, there won't be many, but they should get the win. So it's a lean for me on Juventus at minus 137.
If you bet Juve in every single game 0-0 this season, you're nearly 25 points in profit, 138% return on investment, 5 0-0s in 18
plus
games.
Plus 135
Serie A.
For win to nil.
What is?
Juventus.
Win to nil.
Plus
yeah,
135.
decent, isn't it?
This actually reeks genuinely
that's
of the
decent.
exact 1-0. I think this ends 0-1. The exact score.
Yeah, I'd take that, I think. Monday Night Football, before we wrap things up, if you are returning to the show and you're watching it Sunday night stateside or even Monday morning, then we have got a lean and some analysis for you in the Serie A game. It's Roma against Atalanta, 2:45 p.m. on Monday. So if you're placing your bets nice and early on Sunday night, you've got something to look forward to here at Stadio Olimpico, where Roma are plus 200, Atalanta are plus 132. James, Atalanta just keep on winning at the moment. I mean, they're 5-1 for the Scudetto. They were double figures not so long ago, but there's a bit more respect in that price now. They've won the last 7 in all competitions here. Are they worth siding with in the capital on Monday night?
Yeah, they definitely are, Dan. And, plus money on Atalanta, plus 132 just to win it on the money line. That's a great opportunity for people who like moneyline betting. It's too big. My lean is on Atalanta on the Asian handicap, so a slightly more conservative pick. It's mine with a minus 0.25 goal start at minus 103. But everything here suggests they're too big. As you say, they've won their last 7 in all competitions. I think they're unbeaten now in 12 in all competitions. That's 10 wins and 2 draws. Just fantastic form. And significantly on this game, their away form has been absolutely tremendous. We've just seen them win 6-1 away in Switzerland in the Champions League. They've had that 3-0 win away at Napoli not that long ago. They've had big wins away at Stuttgart and against Shakhtar Donetsk in Europe as well. So you can argue Atalanta's better performances during this fantastic run of form have actually been away from home. So to find them at plus 132, this was very close to being an official pick for me. And just quickly on Roma, we know that Claudio Ranieri has gone in there as manager. We opposed them last weekend back in the opposition and they lost. I didn't see anything particularly different from them, so I don't think Roma are necessarily going to improve. Huge difference in points between these two sides at the moment in the league, in the Serie A table. And yeah, the form is all pointing towards Atalanta. So it's only a lean. But Atalanta, either on the money line at plus 132 or my pick on the Asian handicap at minus 103. I think on the Monday night game, those are the picks to look for.
Steve, any thoughts on this one? Roma obviously away. Spurs ahead of us recording today in the Europa League, so that might take its toll a little bit here. Are we siding with Atalanta?
I think Roma have got a better chance of winning the Spurs game than this one. Atalanta are a very, very good team, and they've got good record here as well. They've only lost once in the last decade away against Roma, anyway. So they've managed to put their feet up, didn't they? Second half in the Champions League, they're going really well. I wouldn't be surprised if they won quite easily. I mean, if you wanted to really juice up the price, maybe Atalanta winning over 1.5 goals could be something you look at. But at the minute, there's a clear golfing class between the two teams, and I think realistically, Roma, their really massive game coming up is the home match after this against Lecce, and that really does become must-win territory for them. But definitely Atalanta, I think, get the job done here.
Good stuff, Steve, James. Thanks for your company. Good luck to one and all. We will keep everyone updated via our X feeds. Get your comments in the YouTube channel as well. We're happy to answer your queries and take a look at your plays as well over the course of the European weekend. That is a wrap for Betting Weekly Extra Time European Show. We're going to be back next week for more picks, plays, hot dogs, same game parlays. Don't forget, live show every single midweek day at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can follow us at Because We Win, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. From all of us for now, though, it is goodbye.